So, why is it important to have human milk for our medically fragile babies or all babies? We know that human milk is so much more than nutrition or food, right? It's medicine, it's love, it's comfort, safety, first aid, sleep, and so much more. So it's not just about the nutrition piece of it. And as a dietitian, I say that that's way more than that. It's way more than that for these babies. And the milk that a lot of these babies are getting that comes from the milk bank are these medically fragile babies. And we know in the state of Kentucky, 1 in 9 babies are born prematurely. So the human milk is even more important for them for their survival, right? Next slide, please. So this slide, man, it blows my mind every time I see it. What are the contents of human milk, and how do all these things interact with our body to help us thrive and grow, for all that good brain development, all that good immune protection, antiviral, antimicrobial, human growth factors, hydration. So many things are happening in the milk. And we know that it changes every single minute of the day, right? Every time that milk is pumped, it's different. And it has different layers of protection all the time for these babies. So particularly our medically fragile babies who are fighting to grow and thrive and put on weight, fight off different things like necrotizing enterocolitis and all kinds of things. So the milk that you all as potential donors or current donors are providing are really helping to save the lives of these babies. So we thank you for coming today. And if you already are a donor, we thank you. And if you're here because you're considering donation, kudos to you, because we recognize that, making breast milk is work, right? It's hard work that requires a lot of energy and time and dedication to take the time to take care of yourself in order to make that milk for whatever babies you're feeding in whatever way they're getting it, whether direct from the tap or from a bottle or from that donation that you're going to be offering to the milk bank. So next slide, please. Just again, I love this slide. I just created it the other day, and it makes me happy. I was so excited to find this little drop of milk with all the little bitty drops in it, because I think that really shows us kind of a good graphic of, there's just a zillion things in each drop that you could provide for these babies. So every single drop that you might be able to feel like you could take the time to donate is going to make an impact for babies across basically the whole eastern part of the country, is where a lot of the milk is typically being transported to, whether that's through a hospital setting or directly to parents who are having a need for that breast milk, or whether that's a NICU baby or a baby out of the hospital that may be having an emergency need, which Lauren's about to talk to us about in just a second. Next slide. So just a really brief second about the services that I offer. I am based in Louisville, Kentucky, and I provide a lot of home visits, office visits, hospital visits. I'm doing more of those now back to doing more of those than I was with more of our COVID times in the last 2 years, but I am doing a few hospital visits here and there, but I'm doing a lot of telehealth visits, and I think I'm like a director, right? I can tell the parent, move your arm here, turn your baby there, and I can really direct you. So there's so much we've learned that can be done with telehealth. So don't think you can't reach out when you need support, even if you're far away. So I want Lauren to jump in here and just give us an overview on the milk bank and introduce the services that you all provide.
Thanks so much, Bonnie. My name is Lauren Duncan. I am the clinical programming coordinator at the Milk Bank. I'm a certified lactation specialist, and I oversee the entire donor relations program. So I work with our donor coordinators to get all of our new donors approved and to really just keep them engaged and be excited to donate throughout the process. I do also oversee our outpatient recipient program. So I also get to see the families and work with the families who are receiving milk outside of the hospital setting. So I really get to see a kind of full circle, which is really, really cool. And part of that is getting to see all of the donors that we are getting from Kentucky. It is truly amazing. We are seeing an uptick in Kentucky donors. We actually primarily serve hospitals in Indiana and Kentucky. So it really, you are truly helping babies in your state by donating milk. The process to donate, it's actually very simple. You do a quick screening, either over the phone or online, and then a donor coordinator will get you set up with our donor application, which again, it's just kind of an in-depth health questionnaire. We get a couple signatures from healthcare providers, basically just saying you and baby are healthy and well. We take care of it, so you don't have to worry about it. And then we send you for a blood test. We cover the cost of it, and it's non-fasting. So we test for infectious diseases, and we'll get you somewhere convenient. We have contracts with national labs, so likely we can get you somewhere close to home that works with your schedule. And then once you're approved to donate, we even have things in place to make it easy for you. We have donation drop-off sites. Some are located in hospitals. We have a pretty recent partnership with the Kentucky Blood Centers, where we have opened up depots, 2 new depots in Louisville, 2 new in Lexington, and then more to come at the Kentucky Blood Centers throughout the state. We also have some milk depot sites at private practices, whether it's a lactation practice, a doula practice, and then we have a not-for-profit organizations such as Zora's Cradle in Louisville, Kentucky, that works with at-risk moms. And then we have retail even in Lexington. So we have depots everywhere. We're looking to add more as we increase our footprint in Kentucky, because the more depots we have, the more milk we get, which the more babies we can serve, which is really exciting. We do also have sites called Donor Milk Express, which we have 2 right now in the Louisville area that families, if they need just a little bit of milk to kind of bridge a gap for when mom is working on supply, families can purchase milk online and pick up at those spots. Next slide. All right, so as you can see, since 2005, so the milk bank's only been around about 16 years. We have approved over 600 milk donors just from the state of Kentucky, which is, it's absolutely amazing. We have received over 360,000 ounces of milk just from Kentucky, which translates to approximately 1 million feedings for these fragile NICU babies. So this is really phenomenal. And we are just so excited to see what the future holds for the state of Kentucky and being able to provide donor milk to your state and to all those fragile babies that we serve. We do offer also in our milk donor program, we do have a program for families who've experienced loss, where you can donate in memory of your sweet babe who's passed away. And then we have a memorial at our location that we invite you to be a part of. So we truly are, welcoming to all who want to donate. And it's just a really, really exciting time to be part of the Milk Bank.
Thank you, Lauren. Love that information. 1 million feedings, you guys. It's incredible. It's just something to really celebrate.
Yeah. It truly is. It is just amazing. When we put it all out like this, it's jaw-dropping. It really is.
It is. And with help from new donors like you guys, if you're thinking about it, you're gonna be on your way to the next million and helping these babies. Sarah, can you tell us a little bit more about the safety of the milk and how all that happens?
Absolutely, yes. I'm Sarah Long. I'm the clinical director here at the Milk Bank. I'm also a IBCLC lactation consultant. So obviously, human milk breastfeeding is the passion and is what drives all of us here every day. And we're just so thrilled to be allowed, I guess, to be able to share our information in Kentucky. It's so important, human milk education, making sure folks are, have the correct information, which is, with folks like Bonnie and all of her colleagues down in Kentucky. We want to make sure that folks know and understand the evidence and the correct information to help families meet their breastfeeding goals. So a little bit about safety. Now, obviously, Lauren did talk a little bit about the donor process. So just a brief snapshot. Although it's a very straightforward process, there's a reason why we have to do all of those safety checks. The most fragile babies are primarily the ones that will receive pasteurized donor human milk from the milk bank. So NICUs, of course, are the major folks who purchase milk from us. So when you think about all of those steps and all that goes into having that safe human milk product at the end, that's why there is a cost associated. But we are a non-profit, so quite literally every single penny that goes into making sure this milk is safe, that is reflected in the cost. And in the grand scheme of things, for NICUs, they will purchase the milk, but families can purchase directly, as Lauren said, as outpatients, but that's only a small fraction. And really, we're talking about tiny amounts of milk. You probably would understand that, babies don't take very much, especially these little fragile babies. They're only taking very small amounts. So if in the instance where a baby, needs human milk, or mom's struggling with her supply, just to be able to access and purchase very small amounts of donor milk, just to get them through that bridge to meet their breastfeeding goals. And that's typically what we see in terms of the outpatient population. But the vast majority is really going to the sickest of infants. And we have a prioritization strategy that we use to make sure that the sickest infants are, of course, served first. And we know that, human milk is perfect as is. Like, breastfeeding, breast milk, mother's own milk is always the best. However, again, due to the very fragile nature of some of these infants, it's literally life and death. And we need to make sure that it's as safe as possible. That's so hence why we have to go through these safety checks and the screening. Again, it does sound overwhelming, but our team here are fantastic. They walk you through the process. We make sure that everybody is like family to us, and every drop is important. So just to make sure folks understand that that's what we're here for, to celebrate our breastfeeding moms and to hopefully get them on their journey to breastfeeding. So that's really a little bit about why, who we are and what we do. It's all evidence-based. The science is out there. And as Bonnie touched on earlier, we don't even know half of the amazing properties that are in human milk. The research is coming in droves. And the geek in me is fascinated by that part. But every time they find new evidence, all it does is solidify the importance of the nutritional aspect of milk, but more so the medicine that cannot be replicated.
Absolutely, Sarah. Thank you for saying that. It's so important to hear that again and again. And yeah, exactly. There's just new research all the time that we're learning about, hey, this is in there and we think it's for this reason, but we're not really sure. So we're going to keep studying it to find out how it protects us and how it helps our bodies grow and develop. So it's really miraculous. Well, thanks for that info on the safety. In case you missed it in the chat feature, it told me that one of the number one questions that they get is when people contact the milk bank is, can I donate milk that I've already pumped? A lot of people have these milk stashes that they've built up over time in their freezer. And what are they going to do with that milk? I get that question a lot. Do I even need a milk stash? And so let maybe Lauren tackle that question. Can you donate milk that's already in your freezer?
The quick and simple answer is yes, you can. So yes, as Bonnie said, so many mamas will build this freezer stash, and then they may find that baby just doesn't want to take a bottle, or maybe baby has developed allergies or intolerances to certain foods that maybe mom is eating, or maybe the milk has high lipase and baby just doesn't want it. There's a multitude of reasons why there could be milk that is not needed by mom. So yes, we can take milk that's been stored up to 9 months in a freezer, and that would be 9 months from approval date. Milk is good for a year for personal use. We need to have it donated to us by about the 9-month mark. So we have time to get it received in, pasteurized, tested, and sent back out for use by the 1-year mark. So even after it's pasteurized, it's still only good for the 1 year from the pump date.
Great. That's great information. Thank you. If I do want to be a donor, how, when, where, what, why, well, we know the why, but tell us just another quick rundown on, who to contact and how to reach someone if we want to sign up to be a donor.
Sure. The easiest way is to visit our website, and that will take you to our initial pre-screening form where we just ask some general health and lifestyle questions. Once that's been filled out, a donor coordinator will be in touch typically within 24 to 48 hours to discuss next steps, which would include the filling out the donor application, going for your blood draw, and then getting approved to donate.
Great. Thank you. The next question comes in and wants to know, can I donate, do you prefer more small amounts of milk or more, wait and donate large quantities all at once? And, also to tag along to that question is it worth it, quote unquote, for the milk bank if a donor is ultimately only able to give a smaller volume of milk? Is there some kind of cutoff criteria for those volumes?
Yeah, those are great questions that we hear all the time. So really, once a mom is approved to donate, we ask that she donates at least 100 ounces by the time baby turns 2. It does not have to be all at once. It can be over the course of time, which, at first you may think, oh my goodness, 100 ounces, which for some moms, we know that that's a lot for her to, sometimes, pump out and store. Over the course of time, even if you're only pumping, say, 1 bag every few days, it adds up pretty quickly. And the short answer for is it worth it if I don't have, a large amount? Absolutely it is. We say the 100 ounces by the time baby turns 2. Many of our donors donate more than that. We do have some donors who can't quite hit that 100 ounces, but we will still, take, and it's just a matter of discretion, on our part. But we always ask that if a mom is interested in donating, that she reaches out, plain and simple, and we can, counsel her through the process and hopefully get her approved. We say that the approval process starts with that initial screening all the way till approval. And so the initial screening happens, then donor fills out the packet. We get healthcare provider signatures. We take care of that on our end, and we send the donor for blood work. So sometimes it can take a little bit longer if we are waiting on those healthcare providers to send back. But really it all hinges on how quickly a donor can fill out the application and get her blood drawn. We have seen donors get approved in as quickly as about 7 to 10 days. And we always strive to get everyone approved in that approximate 30-day time window.
So if someone had, a gallon Ziploc bag full of whatever, 5 to 7 bags, is that something they could come to a drop off and if they're an approved donor and just drop that small quantity, or is there a total volume you want them to drop for, a larger quantity?
Nope. So she can really bring any amount at any time. My favorite example is a donor that I used to pick up from her house every few weeks a couple years ago. She would give me about 30 ounces every 2 to 3 weeks. And over the course of time, she donated about 18 months. Over the course of time, she donated over 800 ounces. And every time she would give me those small amounts of milk, she'd be like, I'm sorry, it wasn't more. I'm sorry, it wasn't more. And then it was so much. And of course, we were so grateful for that.
Awesome. Yeah. So every drop counts, right?
Every drop truly does count.
That's right. So I get a lot of questions about milk storage guidelines. Can you briefly, Sarah or Lauren, talk about which guidelines you all use? What are what is the levels of freezer and storage? How, you said it has to be no older than 9 months, but talk a little bit more about when they're at home storing, what that should look like for them.
Sure, I can jump in here. Essentially, we do follow the same similar guidelines that you hear from the hospital. So it's really the CDC guidelines for the most part. We do have our own standards that we have to follow also. So it's no surprise, really. It's pretty much the same as you would hear in the hospital. So we just ask that our donors, once they're pumping, ideally to freeze their milk as soon as they can in an ideal world. And then once it's safely frozen, I would say most moms, most donors, they will use their side-by-side, kitchen freezer. In those side-by-side freezers, that's ideally 3 months. And then the deep freezers at 6 to 12 months. And that's the standard across the board. So we do follow those same guidelines. And then, as Lauren said, ideally, if we can get the milk as soon as possible, that way we can ensure that we are able to process and pasteurize the milk before that time, so we can get it out the door before that 1 year mark.
And does it matter if it's in a milk storage bag or a bottle?
It does not. We have lots of donors who have had babies in the NICU. And so they already have their milk stored in the little NICU bottles. Truly, as long as it is, food grade, it is fine. The milk just needs to be labeled with the date pumped. That's going to be your most important bit of information. We do ask that if donors are donating previously pumped milk, they do not need to go back and write their donor ID on everything. It is nearly impossible to write on a frozen bag or bottle. If they are donating milk that's pumped after they're approved, we do ask that they write that donor ID, just as it's one more safeguard that we know that it's that donor's milk.
Gotcha. Our second poll that's just popped up on your screen. So just take a quick second to answer that question there. Do we think pasteurized donor human milk is liquid gold, easy to digest, a support for families, or life-saving? What do we think?
All of the above, right?
That's what I think. For sure. Yeah, I think everybody selected all of them. That's it. It's all of the above. It certainly is. We know that for sure. Okay, I think the last question. What's the percentage of milk that is going to hospitals versus the community?
I can answer that question. As I mentioned earlier, the vast majority of our milk, due to the prioritization of the sickest infants, I would say 90 or so % goes to the NICUs. Of course, we are fortunate to have great support and sustainability with our milk supply. So we are able to support those patients, infants who are in the community as outpatients. So, but I would say the vast majority does go to the NICU. But we're definitely seeing more and more growth in terms of the outpatient community, in terms of being able to access those very, very small amounts that they might need to reach their breastfeeding goals.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mhm.
Well, I don't think we have any more questions today. I just want to thank you for spending your time with us. We hope that you learned why donating human milk to a nonprofit milk bank is so important. If you have any other questions about this, you can email milkdonor@themilkbank.org. And if you're ready to get started on your donation, you can click on the link and click on the chat, and then somebody will get in touch with you within, I think they said 24 to 48 hours. We appreciate your time and your interest in donating your milk and recognizing that hard work that you're interested in doing for these medically fragile babies that are in our communities. So thanks again for joining, and have a great day.